Imagine a leader standing at the edge of a bridge that has not been built yet. Behind them is everything they were trained to do. Create a plan, assign the work, control the process, inspect activity, approve decisions, and hold people accountable for following the rules. In front of them is a world they know they have to lead, work that is cognitive, creative, fast-moving, and constantly changing. Work that asks people to use judgment. Work that requires teams to learn faster than the market changes. Work where artificial intelligence can augment human capability, but only if the people closest to the work have trust, training, focus, and authority to use it well. Most leaders can see that future. They talk about innovation. They talk about empowerment. They talk about agility, customer focus, and AI. But then Monday morning arrives. An employee asks for permission to test an idea. The leader asks for a business case. A team discovers a customer service problem. The leader schedules a steering committee meeting. A capable person makes a decision, and the leader asks, "Why wasn't I consulted?" The organization announces that it wants innovation, then requires 5 approvals before anybody can learn whether an idea will work. That's usually not hypocrisy. It's not evidence that leaders are evil or that they don't care. It's evidence that they are in between. They have been trained to lead an industrial age system and then asked to build an information age organization without being given the tools to build anything else. The problem is not that leaders refuse to enter the information age. The problem is that too many of them are standing on its threshold with an industrial age toolkit in their hands. They know they need to push through. They just do not feel armed to make it happen. Today I want to name that gap and give you the bridge across it. I call it the leadership translation gap. The distance between the language an organization uses and the operating tools its leaders actually possess. A leadership team can sincerely say, "We trust our people," while measuring them by hours online, meetings attended, and tasks completed. They can say, "We want innovation," while treating every experiment as a request for approval. They can say, "We need teams to take ownership," while reserving every meaningful decision for the level furthest from the customer and furthest from the work. They can launch an AI strategy, purchase impressive technology, and ask people to become more productive while leaving the exact same approval bottlenecks, activity metrics, interruptions, and fear of failure in place. Then the new technology becomes one more burden laid on an already overloaded team. That's why so many transformations feel frozen. The future is visible. The intent is often genuine. But the daily management system still pulls everyone back towards the past. Industrial age management made sense for the work it was designed to manage. If the work is predictable, repetitive, and physically visible, leaders can improve output by standardizing tasks, reducing variation, and inspecting the line. But information age work is very different. The most valuable work often happens inside people's heads. It's problem solving, it's design, it's judgment, it's connecting weak signals before they become obvious. It's discovering what the customer actually needs. It's learning from a failed experiment quickly enough to make the next attempt better. You can't command someone into having insight. You cannot measure creativity by how long somebody appears active. You can't make a team responsible for an outcome while denying it the authority and the information necessary to shape that outcome. And you can't ask people to use AI to augment their intelligence while managing them as though their highest value is compliance. The industrial age gave leaders tools for directing people. The information age requires tools for designing the environments in which people can think, learn, decide, and contribute. That's the shift. And it's more practical than it sounds. The bridge begins with 4 translations. Not slogans, not a culture campaign, 4 operating translations leaders can put into practice tomorrow. Translation number 1. From controlling people to designing environments. The old question is, how do I make people do what needs to be done? The new question and the better question is, what conditions of our current environment are preventing capable people from doing their best work? Think about the difference. The first question makes the employee the problem. The second question makes the system visible. A leader using control sees a missed deadline and asks who dropped the ball. A leader designing environments asks, what made it hard for the right work to move? Was the goal unclear? Was there a decision being waited for? Did competing priorities overload the team? Did someone see the risk but decide it was unsafe to say so? That's not soft leadership, it's operational leadership. When leaders create clear purpose, useful feedback, psychological safety, visible work, and authority-matched responsibility, people do not need to be pushed nearly as often. They can pull the work forward. Control tries to manufacture accountability through pressure. Good environments allow ownership to emerge. Translation 2. From activity to outcomes. The old management system is addicted to visible motion. How many meetings did we attend? How many emails did we send? How many tasks were closed? How busy does everyone look? But busyness is not progress. A filled calendar can be evidence of a functioning organization or evidence that nobody has enough uninterrupted time to solve the problems that actually matter. Information age leaders replace activity measures with signals that tell the truth about value. Did the customer's problem get solved? Did the work move faster with fewer handoffs? Did the team learn something that reduced future risk? Did we eliminate a recurring source of unplanned work? Did the decision improve the outcome? This translation is uncomfortable because activity is easy to count. Outcomes require leaders to be clear about what success means. But that's the job. If a team can't explain the outcome it is trying to achieve, it will default to completing tasks. And when the goal is vague, people work very hard at work that may not matter very much. A leader's responsibility is not to create more motion, it is to create more meaningful progress. Translation 3. From permission to proximity. In an industrial age hierarchy, where authority rises upward, the person with the title approves the work because the title is assumed to contain the answer. But in complex work, the best information is usually closest to the customer, closest to the system, and closest to the problem. The people doing the work often see the friction before the dashboard does. They see the customer frustration before the quarterly review. They know which assumption is failing before the senior leadership team has even heard that there is an assumption. So the question should not be who has the highest rank. The question should be who has the most relevant context to make the best decision. That is permission to proximity. It does not mean leaders disappear. It does not mean every decision is to be decentralized. It means leaders deliberately move routine and reversible decisions closer to the information needed to make them, while making the boundaries clear, the purpose, the guardrails, the risks that must be escalated, and the outcomes that matter. When you do that, you don't lose control. You stop confusing delay with control. A decision waiting in an approval queue is not being managed, it's being delayed. So the fourth translation, from busyness to protected focus. The final translation may be the most urgent. The most valuable work in modern organizations requires sustained attention. Yet many workplaces treat attention as if it were free. We interrupt people for updates. We interrupt them for meetings. We interrupt them with urgent requests that are really unprioritized requests. Then we wonder why the work that requires deep thought takes so long. Protected focus is not a perk. It's an operating requirement. If you want better decisions, protect the time to think. If you want people to use AI intelligently, give them time to learn, test, and apply it, not merely another tool and another deadline. If you want innovation, create room for experiments before demanding certainty. If you want the team to solve root causes, stop consuming every hour with the symptoms. A leader who protects focus is making a powerful statement. He's saying, he or she is saying, your judgment matters here. The work that only you can do deserves the environment to be done well. That's how you turn human capability into organizational capability. Here's the most important reframe. The leaders standing in between are not the enemy. Many of them were promoted because they succeeded inside the old system. They learned that being responsive meant answering every question. They learned that being accountable meant personally approving every meaningful decision. They learned that being a good manager meant having the answers, staying informed, and keeping a tight grip on the work. Then, through no fault of their own, the nature of work changed. And suddenly, the very habits that once signaled competence can become the habits that slow learning, suppress ownership, and freeze transformation. We can't shame leaders across this bridge, but we can no longer leave them unarmed on it. We have to teach the new tools explicitly. Teach leaders how to define outcomes without dictating every task. Teach them how to establish decision boundaries instead of collecting every decision. Teach them how to make work visible without turning visibility into surveillance. Teach them how to protect focus, invite dissent, and treat early warning as intelligence, not disloyalty. Teach them that AI is not a substitute for people, it is an amplifier of people who have the judgment, trust, and environment to use it well. The goal is not to make leaders less accountable. The goal is to make them accountable for the environment their people experience every day. Because every policy, every meeting, every metric, every approval, and every response to bad news is teaching people how much of themselves is safe to bring to work. The future of work will not be won by the organization with the most slogans about transformation. It will be won by the organization whose leaders learn to translate intention into practice. When you say you want innovation, design conditions that make experiments possible. When you say you want ownership, move decisions toward the people with the context to make them. When you say you value outcomes, stop rewarding the appearance of busyness. When you say your people are your greatest asset, protect the focus, safety, and purpose that allow them to contribute what you hired them to bring. The bridge to the information age is not built with a new poster on the wall. It is built in the meeting you cancel, the decision you move closer to the work, the metric you stop using, the question you ask after a failure, and the hour of focus you give back to someone solving a real problem. Leaders, you are not condemned to stay in between. You do not need another slogan about transformation. You need a new set of tools. Build the bridge, cross it with your people, and stop managing the future with better versions of yesterday's controls. Thank you.